Hello everyone, my name is Samar Montes, and my journey with English began like it did for many in Mexico. In a classroom with a textbook and a primary focus on grammar rules and vocabulary lists. For years, English was just another subject, a key to passing exams. But that changed dramatically, and this video is the story of that change. Today, I will reflect on my second language learning journey through the lens of the SLA theories we've studied. I'll connect personal milestones to concepts like affective variables, input, and interlanguage, and most importantly, I'll discuss how this reflection has fundamentally shaped my approach to future teaching. The first concept that resonates deeply with me is affective variables, specifically motivation and anxiety. Initially, my motivation was purely instrumental. I needed English for academic success. This changed when I discovered online communities and international media. I wanted to understand the lyrics of my favorite songs and connect with people from other cultures. This integrative motivation was a far more powerful driver. Furthermore, I experienced Crashing's affective filter firsthand. In my early classrooms, the fear of making mistakes was paralyzing. My filter was high and I learned very little. In contrast, when chatting with language patterns online where the focus was on meaning, not form, my anxiety plummeted and my fluency soared. This leads me directly to the concept of input and intake. In school, the input was often simplified and decontextualized. It was comprehensible, but rarely what Krashen calls comprehensible input, that perfect I+1 level that pushes acquisition forward. My real acquisition began with what I call compelling input. I watched the same movie multiple times, first with subtitles in my L1, then with English subtitles, and then without. I watched YouTube vloggers who spoke clearly about topics I loved. This was input that was so interesting, I didn't realize I was learning. My brain was focused on the message, and the language was acquired subconsciously. As my language developed, I formed my own interlanguage, a unique linguistic system with its own rules. One feature of my interlanguage that became fossilized was article usage. In my L1, we don't use articles like a, an, and the, so I often omitted them. Because these errors rarely impeded communication, I received little corrective feedback on them, and they became stubbornly ingrained. Understanding interlanguage helps me see my students' errors not as failures, but as evidence of active, intelligent learning process. Finally, the role of my L1, or psycholinguistic transfer, was constant. I benefited from positive transfer with cognates, but also struggled with negative transfer. For example, I will directly translate sentences structures from my L1, placing adverbs in awkward positions. I remember saying something like, I go to the park with my friends always on Saturday, which, while understandable, clearly bore the mark of my first language. So, what does all this mean for me as a future teacher? It has completely shifted my perspective. Firstly, I now see that my primary job is not just to teach English, but to teach learners. This means prioritizing their psychological state. I will consciously work to lower the affective filter in my classroom, although this by normalizing mistakes using collaborative activities and ensuring that my feedback is always supportive and focused on communication. Secondly, I will be a curator of compelling, comprehensible input. I won't rely solely on textbooks. My classroom will be rich with authentic materials, short films, podcasts, music, and real-world text. I will strive to make input so engaging that my students are motivated to understand it, thereby acquire the language naturally. And finally, I will view my students' interlanguage with respect. I will provide opportunities for them to notice gaps in their knowledge through structured feedback and consciousness raising tasks, especially targeting common fossilized errors stemming from L1 transfer. My goal is to guide their interlanguage system to become progressively closer to the target without stifling their willingness to communicate. In conclusion, studying second language acquisition has been like getting a roadmap to my own past journey. The theories gave names to my experiences and explained why some methods worked while others failed. As a future teacher, this knowledge is not just academic, it is my foundation. It empowers me to move beyond a one size fits all approach to create a learning environment that is effective, empathetic, and truly responsive to the complex human process of acquiring a new language. Thank you very much.